So, you know, the thing that just keeps me going, I think coaching is hard. I used to say it was life-giving, and it is life-giving, but for me, but it costs a lot. It's a hard assignment. When we take on coaching, we really are getting up under the load of somebody else's life and trying to take that on, and that costs you something. Steve and Todd have had an experience over the last several weeks with somebody who's in Faithwalking, and this happened after we decided to do this, but who missed more than 3 of the 201s. And so, do you want to tell about the coaching experience first, or do you want to tell about the 201 experience? Does it make more sense to tell one of them? I guess it probably makes more sense to tell yours because yours led to his.
Yeah, so I'm still not quite sure how I got assigned this task. So,
because you're meaner than Steve is.
Yes. So, and I don't want to say too much to disclose the person's name, but so this guy was, to give you a context, so this guy's a pastor of a large church, and he's going to be a presenter in 101. So what we decided in comparing notes was that he wasn't going to be able to finish 201. And so without finishing 201 means he can't be a speaker, he can't be a presenter. You know, I mean, it's what Jim said, he can't. Now this guy was on track to present, so he's got to go do it again if he wants to be a presenter. And so we came to this conclusion, said, so who do you think ought to deliver this information? You know, and both Jim and Steve said, we think you're the guy for that. So, okay.
Were you the coach?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm the coach.
Yeah.
You were just the random assassin.
That's Todd to do.
So,
does the term designated hitter?
The Chuck Colson of Faithwalking.
So one thing I did is I'm not going to have that conversation over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had to be face to face. So it actually took a couple of weeks to actually set up a meeting. So we had lunch. I did it in a public restaurant, so I figured he couldn't throw things at me. He'd have to be a little controlled. No, I'm just kidding. This guy's an amazing guy. So it was an amazing conversation. Yeah, I'll tell you, he one of the things he said to me was one of the, I mean, I took it as one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten in my whole life. And so we finished. And
what did you say?
Yeah, what did you say?
I'm getting ready to say it.
Oh.
I'm going to leave you hanging. It was pretty effective, wasn't it?
You got
Okay, you've been hanging long enough, come on out with it.
He said, you know, I just got to tell you, in the whole coaching process, when you've held the mirror up, and today, because I've never once felt judged or condemned. And he said, that is the thing I loved about Faithwalking. And that's what makes me want to participate in this, because I've never, not one time have I felt that. And so I've already declared that I can be a heavy-handed, and not a lot of people have told me that in my life. So that was demonstrative of real progress in my life. And then, I told Jim the other day that, so we had a coaching call Wednesday, and so he recognized it. Yeah, after the coaching call this week, our coaching call, and he said, well, I got to clean up the mess. And so, if it's okay with you, I'm going to take some time and talk to the other 2 guys about, we have a quad, this is what 4 people do. So, it's great. So we start the call, and he talked about it and said, I've got some integrity gaps, and I haven't played full out, haven't honored my word. And it was just amazing how authentic and transparent he was. He said, I need to hear the impact that this had on you guys. And so they both told him the impact. And so one guy told him the impact, and then he tried to let him off the hook. And he said, you know, I've known a lot of pastors, I know tons of pastors, and they're just so busy, and they got so much to do. And, you know, practically, I just don't even know how a pastor could actually even do this, you know. And he said, well, thanks for trying to let me off the hook. Because vocation, that has nothing to do with this. This is all about, what I give my word to and living with integrity. So I tell you, it was one of the most amazing. It was about 30 minutes, and it's just one of the most amazing conversations I've ever participated in. And I that's why I told the guys when we finished. I said, man, can you imagine how different our world would look if just Christians would treat each other this way? Mm-hmm. If we lived in a way like this with each other, of loving grace, holding up the mirror without condemnation. I mean, our world would look so different. And we would be so attractive to the rest of the world if we really lived into that. This is amazing.
So all that call took place, and he didn't have to, but he came to the 201 meeting.
Well, and so can I do one little piece before? We were talking because Todd, in communication with the facilitator, said my guys missed some coaching calls, and I had been in communication to say he's not only missed coaching calls, but he's missed 201 seminars and won't be able to complete. And that's when we asked the question, who delivers this? But we also talked about what's the approach, and we had encouraged, I think I sent an email encouraging Todd about the integrity, but helping him face the impact. No, that's good in theory, but Todd did an amazing job taking that. So he showed up, having missed already. He asked Todd, you didn't report this, I don't think, should I just quit now? No. And you said, no, I'd encourage you to go ahead and go to the last seminar. And I think you've missed 5. Now, go ahead and go to the last seminar and see if you can clean up your mess there.
And
so,
he lives at one of the far edges of the city, so to come to the seminar, he had to drive, had to drive a 45-minute drive to the UVA office for a seminar that he wasn't going to get credit for.
Yeah. So he came, and people were appropriately warm, I thought. I think I was the only one who knew he was coming, or that he was planning to come. And after we did our little bit of touching base, actually Marcos was facilitating, and this guy asked, can I share something with the group since I haven't been here for a while? Everybody turned, and he made the same request. He said, I want to ask your forgiveness. I want to confess. Not only have I missed more than 3, but even when I was here, I wasn't playing full out most of the time. I didn't do anything I gave my word to. And I'm ashamed at one level, but I really came today to ask your forgiveness and to ask you to help me by telling me the impact on you of my not having been present, not having played full out. And there was a moment at which people said, gosh, thank you. Wow, that's great, thanks. But no problem. And I intervened at that point, and I said, he just gave us an incredible gift. And he asked us to share the impact. And the best way to honor and to bless him is to take him seriously and do it. And at that point, I think it was really helpful, just so happened, this was Marcos's first time to be a facilitator. And I don't know whether you know Marcos well, but he's pretty conscious of the fact that he does not have great command of the English language. And
he also defines nice.
Yeah. So Marcos turned to him and he said, I'm really honored, I thank you. Here was the impact on me. This was my first time. Because you're a pastor, you know so much, I know how highly the others in Faithwalking think of you. I was telling myself a story that I was such a bad facilitator that it wasn't worth your while to come, that I didn't have anything to offer you. And he said, I knew on this side that was a story I was telling myself, but the impact on me was emotionally. I felt very vulnerable, a lot of sadness, and some fear that it was going to turn out to be true, that I'm just not very good at this. And then Marco said, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say, and I forgive you. And the others shared basically, we missed out on what you would have contributed, but then at the end one person said, you know, isn't it great to know that we're all sinners saved by grace and we're all going to mess up and it's really okay. And we all forgive you. And again, I asked to step in to say, you know, one of the things that's really important here in cleaning up the mess is not that you get a blanket absolution from one of us, but that in the same way that at the beginning we ask you to look us in the eye and give your word, it would be really important to look him in the eye and tell him first person singular, thank you for being willing to clean up your mess and hearing this, and I do forgive you. And there were tears all around him at that point. And
one more piece of story. So the day before these conversations, he signed up to do 201. The next 201 is coming up. So he's doing it again.
He also went to his wife and staff and asked a question that Jim reported a story at the Pastors 101 this last month, where people are encouraged to go ask, what can you count on me for and what can you never count on me for? And because of the feedback that Todd had given him and his realizing that his word maybe didn't have as much power and integrity as he thought, he went home and asked his wife something like that. And she actually helped him clean up his mess by saying, what Todd's been trying to tell you, I've tried, and there's some other things that I need to try.
So the question is, because that's also what we're writing it down, what can you almost always count on me for, and what can you rarely count on me for? We don't ever use always and never. What can you almost always, and what can you rarely count on me for?
And one thing he told me that I said that was really meaningful to him, and all I was doing was parroting what I hear Jim say all the time, but that I was just having a conversation about how you've shown up in 201 isn't isolated, and at some level that reflects how you show up in life. So I just wonder where you show up in life, you know, like that. And he thought it was great. I was just repeating what he said.
The thing that's so powerful for me and all that is I just begin to imagine what would happen if the Christian community, this was a common way for doing life. This is just a common way to be related to one another, where we held up mirrors for each other, we held each other accountable in a spirit of grace and truth. And that kind of reconciliation and restitution got made. It's powerful stuff. And it's the stuff that keeps me coaching. It's the stuff that keeps me coaching. All right, so I'm going to do one more thing. Thank you, Todd and Steve. Thank you, Chris.